You're listening to the AfterBuzz TV Network, now the largest new media platform on the web, and your number one source for after-show entertainment.
Very good, Keith. Johnson.
From the AfterBuzz Studios in Los Angeles, California, presented by Maria Menounos and streaming live thanks to Akamai Technologies, this is AfterBuzz TV's Murder in the First After Show. We'll break down tonight's episode and get you all the latest news and gossip. And now, another post-game wrap-up show for your favorite TV show. It's AfterBuzz TV's Murder in the First After Show.
All right, guys, welcome into the Murder in the First After Show. Introing with some Toby Keith, Who's Your Daddy? Because you are watching Season 1, Episode 3, entitled Who's Your Daddy? Here on Murder in the First on AfterBuzz TV. I'm your host, Bobby DeMuro, joined as always by my panel. Marina next to me, we always seem to agree and have a team.
Hello.
And across the aisle, who we always seem to disagree with, we've got JB and Monse. Hello,
yeah,
guys.
that's because we're right.
Exactly.
It's the correct side of the
This
table.
is going to be one of those days. Be careful, it's an argument episode. All right, let's get into Who's Your Daddy. Before we do it, one quick thing. We talked about it last week on the show, but Maria's book, The Every Girl's Guide to Diet and Fitness, How I Lost 40 Pounds and Kept It Off, and How You Can Too, is in bookstores now. Amazon, Barnes & Noble, pretty much everywhere else books are sold. If you haven't gotten it yet, it is a great gift. It is also a great health and education resource. Speaking of health and education, before we get into the show, Mulligan's Arms, she's kind of jacked.
A little bit, yeah.
Very tough.
Like, you have to be, I get like a detective, but she's like, ooh, God.
Yeah.
She works out.
Clearly, you do
Yeah,
not
she
mess
does.
with her.
No, really don't mess with her. Gun or not.
Yeah, she will kill you.
That's her
Literally.
that's her hashtag. She will kill you. All right, let's talk about this show today. The first scene is obviously the first most noteworthy thing to talk about. It's the weird Erich Blunt, like, kind of role play, kind of rapey, definitely on drugs, sex scene that was shot interestingly.
Yes.
Initial thoughts. Which one of you was creeped out the most by it?
It was a bit of a surprise. I think, you know, they sort of build up everything so it's against Erich Blunt. I mean, the whole show is sort of formatted that way. It's like everybody versus Erich Blunt. So they went to sort of an extreme. Obviously, they explained later that they were doing Molly, which is a pretty extreme party drug. And they were doing it sort of a unique way, parachuting it. You put it in paper and you eat it. So that way your body dissolves the paper really fast.
You sound like an
you get
expert.
high. Well, no, I mean it's a super unique way. Not that I've done it anywhere, Mom. Don't worry.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
But yeah, it's sort of building again that case before even a trial is had for the audience to hate Erich Blunt, and I think they do a great job of it with that scene for sure.
I agree. They set it up for us to already dislike him and to already have these feelings totally with JB on that. I thought it was very weird. I thought I was watching a different show for a second. I was like, Are we on the right channel? Because it just didn't seem like it flowed. I don't know. It didn't go with the past 2 weeks, in my opinion. But, you know, like JB said, they're setting it up for us to see it in the point of view of Erich.
Yeah.
It kind of goes with our conversation from last episode where we had, the crazy Erich and the nice Erich, and it definitely showed the crazy Erich and how aggressive he was, stuffing the pill, whatever it was, in the girl's mouth and choking her at the same time and then throwing champagne at her, and so it was interesting to say the least.
Right, and that also could be maybe a reason for his bipolarity. The fact that he is a drug addict, which sort of just came to light now. That could definitely contribute to mood swings and everything.
Would a guy like him consider himself an addict? And I know there are plenty of addicts who don't consider themselves an addict, but this, to me, it seemed like it was kind of almost a college party type thing. Like, we got money, we're young, this is what we do. So I don't know, is he truly an addict? Like, does he have a problem with it? Because if he does, that'll definitely come up later, I would imagine.
I mean, we can't know for sure based on what we've seen,
Yeah.
I think, but I think based on this last episode, it shows that he does it a lot, and he likes to do it sexually, and he likes to force women to take him. So it could be. I could see it being something that is normal to him, and he does it all the time.
If he's addicted, I don't think it's affecting his life yet. I mean, he's still running this company, so I'm with you that he does it frequently. Addicted, maybe not. I don't know if he could continue thinking logically like he's been doing, getting a second lawyer and all that. So
yeah, well, just barely thinking
Yeah.
about some of that stuff. The other thing that I wonder about this scene with Erich, because it sets up the same idea in his brashness and his cockiness to a very great degree, is when she told him, she's like, I didn't like that. His response was,
Oh, yes,
Yes,
you
you
did.
did.
yes, you
Yeah.
did. Yeah, which is a weird thing to say. I don't know that whole like kind of role play world, so I can't be like, oh, that's what they would do. But I can say it's weird, it's a little uncomfortable, and it's really cocky and really, really dominant to a point where you're not sure she's enjoying herself anymore.
Well, it even seemed a little rapey, you
Yeah.
know? Like, she's saying, I didn't like this. And he's like, no, you did. Like,
Yeah.
I don't care what you're saying.
Yeah.
So that was weird, you know? And I think he was crossing the lines. But who knows? Maybe she was, you know, a prostitute.
That's actually a great point.
Right.
Maybe she, that's a
Yeah.
good point.
You know, not that it's okay for him to do that anyways, but we don't know. We have no story for that specific woman. We just know that she was naked in the first 30 seconds of the episode. So,
All right, let's move on now because we'll talk a lot about Erich Blunt, of course. The next thing I found interesting was Mulligan complaining about clearance rates. They're talking about getting the DNA, getting the paternity stuff pushed through in the lab. And she complains. Remember in episode 1, Jackie Perez, the DA, who's going to come into play here today. In episode 1, she put out the news conference and put the pressure on the detectives and was saying, we're tough on crime in this city and blah, 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 and all the stuff politicians say. And then she turns around by episode 3, and we've already got the tension we were wondering about because the clearance rates are supposed to be better, but they don't have the resources and the manpower and all that kind of stuff. So we begin to understand maybe the work stress for Mulligan in English because Lord knows we've seen their home stress. But we understand the work stress. And how do you think this will factor in, this clearance rate issue with Jackie Perez? How will this factor into the department getting the Cindy murder case closed?
I think it can be very frustrating for a cop or detective or anybody that is working extremely hard at their job to do what is right and to, you know, get clues and whatever they need, and then it gets to a point where they depend on the government or, you know, the DA to approve payments or something like that, and then it takes months, you know, and then the case is gone and it's put it to the side and there's something else that they're working on. And so it can be very frustrating. I know if it was me, I would be pissed, you know, I would be going to the DA and get fired probably, but
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm thinking we would all feel like that. They're trying to get this case. They are trying to just get something. And I feel like she's just to the point where, seriously, we're doing everything we can, and now we're not getting the help we need. So I think it's more frustration more than anything that was out of.
And then they do exactly what they can, or more than they can, when they go down to the lab and they kind of finagle their way to the results. These guys have showed the willingness to bend the rules a little bit, but every good detective does.
Right. I mean, you gotta massage the soft spots. Obviously, they figured out that she was more of a fan of Terry than Hildy.
Yeah.
So they kind of played that card. In the previous episode, they did the exact opposite with Hildy. You know, she was a little bit more valuable in the scene with Erich Blunt. So they kind of are using themselves as a team, and you sort of have to. There's a very clear chain of command and of screaming, if you will, where, you know, the one boss yells at the subordinates to get their job done, and so on and so forth. So it kind of moves along like it is a big machine, the law, the SFPD, if you will. So it's kind of interesting to see them kind of each gear turn, and kind of who they push to get, you know, light the fire under them.
Yeah. I think well said. Now let's talk about Erich again, because he comes back up with Warren Daniels, and he smartly goes and gets Warren Daniels. Warren Daniels calls himself a Doberman, with $1 million on retainer and $2 million in court. So this is really the best defense attorney money can buy, and I think this is maybe the first point with Erich where we know he's scared. It's not whether we've seen his face or whatever, because he's not always telling the truth and usually isn't. But we know he's got to be terrified to go and do this.
Oh, yeah, definitely. You know he didn't want to. There's got to be a reason, like you said, he's scared, or maybe he's starting to think this plan isn't going to work the way I wanted it to. But I would be scared of Mr. Daniels. There's something about him.
He's a very intimidating
Yeah.
guy,
like,
for sure.
This is who you want to basically depend on and have to just make sure, what were his 3 rules? Don't talk to anybody about the case, speak to no one, or no one can speak on his behalf besides him, and to never lie to him.
Yeah.
It's Erich. Is he really never going to lie to him?
Well, and the funny thing about, first off, which every defense attorney should say, first off, don't tell me. I don't want to know whether or not you can. And Erich's like, well, I didn't.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, come on, man.
Yes, exactly. I was kind of thrown by that scene just because, we take Erich to be such a smart guy. It was interesting that he basically didn't listen to his advisor, or the one that he just claimed to have paid so much for. He wasn't really in the moment. He wasn't really paying attention, which makes me feel like he's not taking it seriously.
Yeah, he always comes across as very smart ass and cocky, and in that room he was just very naive, and he looked like a puppy that was scared. It was weird.
Right.
Even his facial expressions and how he was carrying himself, how he was sitting in the chair, it was just like he wasn't the same person.
Exactly. It was kind of more of like a kid where, he's being scolded somewhat by a very authoritative figure, and he was just kind of cowering in a chair.
And maybe this will be good for him. That's a ridiculous thing to say, but maybe it'll be good for him if he's not the murderer. If he is, he should go to jail. If he's not, this would be a good way for him to get some humility.
Right. Because a positive role model.
Yeah, exactly. Get Warren Daniels. But he wasn't. I mean, Erich's grown up in such a way. I know he was an orphan and that situation happened, but his young adult life has been so financially successful and so unbelievable that there's going to be no incentive for him to ever get humility unless something like this happened. So maybe during the rest of the show, I know we do a lot of early predictions because we can't help it, but maybe during the rest of the series, the rest of the season, Erich shies away like a flower or something, and says, okay, I need to be a little more humble, and actually changes his behavior rather than doubling down, which I think is what he's probably going to do.
Yeah, I think that's what's going to happen, let's be honest.
We wouldn't watch it if we didn't want that to happen. Speaking of weird things, though, let's talk about Hannah.
Yeah.
Hannah meets with Dave, the detective, the cleanse guy, the funny guy, whatever. And she says she wants to tell him something, doesn't obviously say what it is, and Dave has a hot lead when nobody ever thought Dave would get a hot lead, and he gets one. And she comes to him and talks to him about how Erich Blunt raped her, drugged and choked her. She filed a complaint, didn't go through with it, and then says, as kind of a warning, I think he killed Cindy. And then the obvious happens. They start talking about the NDA, the non-disclosure on the lawsuit and whatever. And then the obvious happens where Dave says, you told a cop, I have to do something. And she's like, no, I told a friend. So my question for you guys, if you're in the situation Hannah's in, I understand it's a terrible situation, but if you are there and your friend is a cop and you call him at work and you meet him in the police station, how can you think you're just talking to him as a friend?
That's why I think I don't trust this girl. I
do have a weird feeling about her. First thing I thought, this is a setup. This is not, somebody is doing this on purpose, and it's not a real statement. But I could be wrong. I don't know. I do have a weird vibe about her. I don't know exactly what it is, but who would do that? Who would go to a police station, talk to a cop, and then be like, "Oh, please, don't say anything."
Right.
She's asking for it.
I was surprised that she said that after she said all the information.
Right.
I mean, she knows that's her job. It's her livelihood. She has a kid. She mentioned all of that. So you'd think if that was so important to you, you would say that first and then make everything else conditional on that.
Yeah.
It was interesting that she kind of played that the other way.
And I felt like the way she reacted to the situation was very one level. No, don't do it. Okay, well, I have to go. I gotta run. Nothing. I was like, there's something. Someone put you up to this. You're here with
Even
an
how
intention.
when she came back, right? She was there. She said she got mad about him saying that, well, I have to do something. And then the next day she comes back and she's all nice and friendly to him. And, oh, I'm so sorry. It just felt set up to me.
And then Dave got a date out of it. So
Right.
who cares?
That is true.
Exactly.
So that's the pro out of this.
That's really why.
Yeah.
Sorry,
cares?
Dave, but she's out of your league.
Hey,
She's out of your league. That's terrible. But
That's a
true.
terrible thing
Right?
to say, but no, it is true.
But
I
it
agree
is
with you too.
true.
Speaking of dates and out of your league, how about Terry in this episode with his little real estate girlfriend?
I know. I mean, she was real forward
Yeah.
with
Oh, yeah.
him. I mean,
She's out of his league. Have you seen her?
I wouldn't say that necessarily. I think they look good together.
Okay.
No, I thought they looked good
I
together.
think she's very pretty.
Yeah.
She was a knockout.
Yeah.
But
But he is good looking
He's
too.
good looking.
Oh, okay, I don't have an opinion on that.
Come on, we know you do.
But she not only was a knockout, she was very forward with him, and
Yeah.
that will be interesting to see down the road. But how do you think Terry deals with it? We saw what he did. Is he interested in her in like a relationship type of way? When she said, "Oh, I'm just a friend,"
He
to set the
didn't push her
border.
away.
Yeah,
he
he smiled.
just kind of smiled and said, she's the one who said, I know you're not ready for something new. And that's true. And she said, I'm just a friend. And he didn't say anything like, well, I don't know this ever going anywhere. He just smiled
And again, he never grieved, right? We never saw him being upset. He never mentioned her again, aside from the whole weird sister-in-law occasion.
Yeah.
We didn't see anything else about him and how he's doing personally in dealing with this, which I think is kind of weird.
Yeah, I was surprised to not hear any blowback from his wife passing because it was so recent. But I think with everything that's going on with Hildy, they sort of have to make him this solid character, just to have that dynamic. If they were both kind of off the wall, then it'd be almost a little too crazy.
Yeah.
I agree.
Because-
I don't think they want to focus on that.
Right.
I don't think they want it to be about his wife. They're just like, okay, moving on.
Yeah. Speaking of Mulligan being a little crazy and being a little more off the wall, she is just a champion of every cause and a champion of every child because she's a champion of D-Hop. He's back.
D-Hop.
Yes.
What does D-Hop stand for? Is it like Dennis Hopkins? Like, is it literal? Or does he does he jump?
I'm going to say, I guess his name is like Daniel.
Yeah.
Daniel or something. And probably that he does something
Maybe.
involving hopping.
He just hops from time to time.
He
jumped
He's the
really
best
high
hopper in
once.
school.
Yeah.
Maybe it has to do like a basketball or something, but yeah, I'm going to guess his name is Daniel or something.
Okay, that was a minute of my life I think I want back. Let's talk about Daniel or whatever his name is. Let's talk D-Hop though because he goes to Mulligan talking about his mom and her boyfriend, whatever. And she gives him her cell phone number, offers her help, does all this sort of stuff, and he runs off. And then later on, we see maybe the most important storyline in the entire show is what ends up happening with him. But Mulligan, to me, I don't know about you guys, but Mulligan, to me, is generous to a fault with stuff like this. And I feel like every episode now, she's going to have a new crusade, which is fine, but you're already overextended. And the crusades at home are not that good. I know her daughter and her have a good relationship, but how much time could she spend with the kid?
Yeah.
Right.
How much time could she possibly spend with that kid? You have a deal with an ex-husband or whomever. So to me, it's like, Mulligan, I know you want to champion these causes, but you're doing enough. You're doing enough. And it got one guy killed who deserved to die, but it still got one guy killed. I don't know. I mean, am I wrong?
I think she takes it very personal because when she went to the mini mart wherever the woman works, she mentions that she was also abused.
Yeah.
She mentions like I've been there. My daughter has watched me, so I think she's taken to a very personal level, and she probably has flashbacks and bad memories from what happened to her and. She just wants to defend this kid, and she, in a way, being a little unprofessional, instead of just following the rules and just taking care of it when she's on duty, she sure didn't.
But what do you do in that
Exactly.
situation? Like how she said, I should have waited for backup. It's like, but what if backup came and it was too late? It's it's a very gray area.
Yeah.
That is true.
But I am with you that I think maybe she takes everything to heart. Right now she maybe is feeling a little bit vulnerable, a little bit more emotional, and she's trying to do more than she can. Possibly also to keep her mind off of whatever it is she doesn't want to think about. But I think it's a very gray area. I probably would have gone in and not waited, hearing
I
those
would've too.
screams. It's very difficult to say that you would just bystand there and just, okay, let me wait for my backup while I hear this woman sound like she's dying.
Right, but would you have killed the guy?
If he's coming at me with a knife, you bet it. You betcha if he's coming at me with a
I mean, you
knife.
could have shot him in the
Shot him in
legs.
the legs, yeah.
But if someone's coming at you with a knife, and I'm pretty sure he wasn't like at the other end of the basketball, like he was at a good distance from me, you know what I mean? Like, I get what you mean, like, okay, after, maybe I should have shot him in the kneecap, but
Well, she shot him like 5 times. It wasn't like once. It was like 5 times. Like
She emptied the clip.
Yeah. So that's one thing, and I'm like, okay, she didn't have to do all of those. I think 2 he would have been down, but
Right.
Well,
I definitely think she got overly emotional given her past, and plus where she was at before. I mean, she was off duty. She was on a date. She was probably drinking. So she kind of got caught up in the heat of the moment, and definitely the situation was handled probably not to the best. But at the same time, looking globally, it's probably for the best because he was a very bad guy.
He was a cockroach.
Exactly.
Right. I love that
Yeah.
Terry said you just stepped on a cockroach.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad that he was there to kind of comfort her and reassure that that was, for the greater good. Which is why I really think that they did have to have him, fully stable in his personal life for this episode at least.
Oh,
Yeah, stable for now. I'm sure it'll both work
For
out.
now.
Yeah, definitely. All right, well, let's talk about Bill. Because I got to hand it to you guys. I think it was JB specifically.
Yes.
Bill's looking good. Bill's horse is running. So he gets interviewed. He doesn't want them to talk to his wife. The question is, why? Like, I know the cheating. I understand that's what he's saying, but do you think that's really the truth?
No.
We haven't seen the last of D-Hop, and we haven't seen the last of Bill's wife.
Agreed.
Yeah, okay.
I don't think he wants them to talk to his wife because I don't think he told the truth. I think his wife knows that he had this fling with Cindy. I think she knows everything about it, or at least most things. Women know. We just know. We just know. Like moms just know. She knows.
Terrifying.
It's true.
God.
You guys are terrified of us. We're terrified of our moms. It's a vicious cycle. Trust us. Moms know everything. But I think she knows. And he doesn't want the cops to talk to her because then they're going to start to realize he didn't tell the full,
Well,
the full truth.
didn't she say that he was at home that night too? Didn't they need
She
a
did.
lullaby?
Yes.
What is it
When they
called?
were
Lullaby?
together.
Yeah.
Right.
Alibi.
Alibi.
Not lullaby. So, she would be lying too. You know, if she said, no, he was home with me, and now if they go and question her and she says something different, then they're both screwed.
Yeah. I think they're in it
So,
together.
I
like
think,
they're lying to the cops together.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah.
What do you
Bill-
think?
But well, I don't know what I think yet. I just know JB is correct so far.
Yes. I love
Alright.
that. I love hearing that.
His
Sounds
prediction
like
hasn't
good.
come correct, but it's progressed along.
It's on its way.
I'm still on the lawyer. I'm
Yeah, I
still
mean,
on the
I'm-
ponytail lawyer.
I'm not gonna bust out the champagne just yet and start popping bottles.
And the MDMA.
Yeah, exactly. Just party Erich Blunt style. But it is looking good. Except it is still the third episode, so I don't want to go too high too fast because
He's giving like an acceptance speech.
I know,
Yes, I'd like to thank the Academy for my brilliant prediction.
I was just listening to you for a while, and then I realized that
Just
you were like,
let's keep
you were-
this
you were
going.
just really
Let's
dragging it out.
keep going. No, but I think it's so early on. A lot can happen. So it seems a little too easy that it's him because they are kind of shining the spotlight on him in episode 3. There's most of the seasons to come. So what's gonna happen between there?
yeah.
Yeah. I think there could be more than one person at fault for different things.
That is true.
Yeah.
Maybe it was a group.
Maybe, or I don't know if they're connected, but maybe,
Right.
yeah. Like maybe it's not just one person that is responsible.
One question for you guys about English. Not to turn this too quickly, but moving along. The floating boat home, that floating home that whatever he showed, would you live in a floating home?
I think I would.
I
Not
would
for
too.
a very long time, but it looked really nice.
real nice.
I mean, for a year or 2 or 3.
Year?
5.
two
Or 3.
Okay.
It just I would be scared of storms and being too shaky at times.
Really big fish and stuff like that. Yeah.
No, not the fish necessarily, but yeah, it just looks cool.
Yeah, it was a really nice place.
I just thought it was very different from everything else that we saw. It was like a dump, and then there was this extremely nice boat.
Well, that's the question because English has to move on. However quickly he does that, and whenever he does that, he's got to move on eventually. So things like buying a new place or renting a new place are a huge deal if he moves out of that home, and that surely will affect him down the road. Is he ready to move on, though? He hasn't dealt with it yet.
I don't know. I think staying at their home, it just brings too many memories, and it just keeps reminding you of what happened, and it's very difficult for him to move forward. So I think I would want to move. And again, I don't know how big their home is. If they have a big home, why would he leave there alone?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it makes sense to get a new place.
I think it's the first step, one of the first steps in moving on. I agree. It might be too hard to be there. And I don't know if they specified this, but was he always just the sole provider to the house or to that relationship?
I don't know.
Yeah,
that's a good
so
point.
maybe now he can't afford it. Maybe now it's not even like I want to move out because I don't want to think about this. Maybe it's like I have to move out.
That's true,
Right.
because obviously they made it clear that his budget is not big because of
Exactly.
the place that
Yeah, the
she
first
was
place
showing. Yeah, it was
horrible.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
the slums.
Exactly.
First place was like the place that the first guy was killed at. The first
Yeah.
victim was killed
Exactly.
at. You know, it was like his old apartment cleaned up. Creepy. Okay, let's talk about Mulligan. I know we've mentioned this a little bit, but we need to talk about the shooting. And before we get to the shooting, we need to talk about her date. Who are these people she's dating?
She's
Tinder.
on Tinder.
Oh,
Jinx.
Lord. Okay, well then that settles that. She needs to tell these guys that she's a cop. I respect you. It's a first date you just met, but isn't that one of the things?
I feel like that's a profile.
Yeah,
thing.
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, absolutely.
name
That's-
Hildy, position cop.
Yeah.
Like, number 2.
I agree.
I mean, okay, so, but it seemed like to me, and I don't know about you guys, but she was much more comfortable with this man than she was on the dates and stuff in the first thing, and the manipulation with Blunt aside.
Right, they're definitely hitting it off, which
Yeah.
was, it was interesting to see 'cause she hasn't had that kind of connection with anybody.
Which, to me, I assume we're going to see him again. She left a good date because she had to. Now, she killed a guy when she left, but she had to leave, so I assume we may see some of this guy. And then does that stabilize her or destabilize her?
I think it destabilizes her just because it's almost as if she's not allowing herself to truly be happy or to kind of fall back into the place where she was. I mean, she was married, obviously, or I don't know if she was married, but she had a long relationship with someone. They had a kid together. I don't know if she's ready to get back to that place or let herself get back to that place because they were obviously hitting it off, but she finds a reason to leave. I mean, she could have just still at the date, texted Terry like, "Hey, there's a bad situation at this address. Go now."
Yeah.
But she just kind of abruptly leaves and runs off. So it's interesting that she destroyed that happy scenario she was in for helping someone else that she didn't necessarily need to.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's the thing, that she's too good in a way. She's trying to do too much, and this is one of those things where there are a lot of options, like you said, to text English or whomever and say, go do this, here's what's going on, whatever it is. You don't, as a detective, you don't give your personal phone number out to little kids because they're going to call it. I don't mean to sound insensitive, but you don't. If you've ever worked with little kids, one of the first rules is like, don't give them your phone number because A, it's weird, but B, they'll call it, and if you're not ready to deal with a responsibility like that, you shouldn't be doing it, but yet she does.
Yeah.
It's
Right.
maddening. And I know she's a good person and she's a sympathetic character, but it's maddening in a way to say you're already overextended. Don't do it anymore. But she's gonna.
I think, like we said earlier, it just hit close to home.
Yeah.
Maybe if D-Hop would have been like, hey, there's a robbery at the liquor store down the street, she might have been like, okay, let's text Terry. But I think it's just that it hit close to home. So she was like, I'll take care of this.
I do have to say, I don't think the guy's gonna come back.
The date guy?
Just
Okay.
wrapping
Wow.
around it. I don't think so.
Fair enough.
Wow.
I don't think so. I think now that she's in a vulnerable place, we've seen it from previews at the end of the shows that she's going to have something with Terry. And I think that she's in a vulnerable place right now. And I think in the next 2 or 3 episodes, something's going to happen between the two of them because he's going to keep coming home and helping her and bring her, cupcakes or whatever it is.
Interesting prediction, by the way.
Yeah, I'm sorry to do a prediction, but I couldn't just say no. He's not coming back.
Had to give
Well,
her
no, I was
Yeah.
talking about her, Hildy and Terry getting together. Because I remember we did sort of see them close, but because it was sort of a trailer to the season, I feel like they can definitely play that certain ways to make you think it's going a certain way before it actually does. Because I think we discussed this last episode. The writers sort of were writing as they were going, which kind of makes it fun and non-linear in a sense where even the actors didn't know what was going to happen. So I think there's going to be a lot of twists and turns, and maybe there some stuff that they shot they didn't use in the season, and
that's true.
and vice versa.
Yeah, and I disagree. I think that I no longer think there's going to be a love interest between the two of them.
Interesting.
I hope not. I think it's great that they should. I don't think they should. They should not. Every story, the main characters always get together. Let's not do that. And based on that date, not that he's going to come back, but just that she can be comfortable with a date. that she can be in the moment. And maybe after this whole thing that's happened, and now she has to take a break, maybe she'll like, I will take a break. And maybe she won't bring her phone or something and be able to just date.
Interesting.
Well, she's got 10 days.
She has 10
yeah,
days.
what is she gonna do?
She can lose a guy in 10 days. She can win a guy in 10 days.
Oh. Way to bring it back.
So Monse is not on the Mulligan and English hookup team,
Nah.
and Marina is. JB, where do you stand?
I think it's a little too close circle for me. I mean, I like both the characters. I wouldn't be upset if they ended up together, but because I'd like to see them involve more characters rather than kind of close it back up.
So you're saying you're on Team Monse?
I am.
Of
I'm gonna have
course.
to be on
Well,
the right,
for
this side of
nostalgia's
the
sake,
On
I
the
guess
correct side.
I guess for nostalgia's
have
sake,
no
I
choice,
gotta
Bobby.
agree with Marina, and we can argue about that for like 45. No, I'm just kidding.
We really
But
could, though.
let's actually talk about that scene though when English comes over to help Mulligan and the way they portrayed it. To our detriment, saying they're going to get together. The way they portrayed it was English was compassionate, but not in a weird way yet, and Mulligan was very, very businesslike, like a nagging, spouse or something, but more so. Wanted to get everything done, wasn't focused. Part of that's the shooting, obviously, that she doesn't want to think about it, or she can't think about it, or whatever. But the other part is, Mulligan to me, I can't believe I'm going to say this, Mulligan to me has very distinct boundary lines with work. But when I say that, I already realize it's wrong because of what she did with Erich Blunt.
Right.
So maybe she doesn't have distinct boundary lines. I just get the fact that she is a stickler and that she would never cross the line. But I don't know.
Right. Difficult to say. I think she's still very shell-shocked from murdering someone. But, well, I guess shooting someone. She didn't really think about it beforehand. But, she definitely shot someone and killed them. So that would definitely affect the next day. Terry even said when he came in, like, have you slept? And it didn't seem like she had.
Yeah.
So, she's running on fumes right now. She's stressed out, obviously emotional from everything that's going on. So it's tough to judge her character based on whatever she's going through just from this event.
Yeah.
I guess
All right.
we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, I can't wait what happens with her in that shooting. I think we're probably all in agreement, though, that the shooting was justified.
Yeah.
Maybe
Right.
not. Maybe not 5 times.
Yeah, not the
Yeah.
the
But
Well,
aside from that, but yes.
self-defense.
Well, yeah, I mean, once she put herself in that position, I think that's one of the only ways that she could have reacted, or she would have jeopardized everybody else.
yeah.
So it's sort of, like you got to pull the Band-Aid off at one point.
Just rip it right off.
Rip it.
Rip
Just
right off. Shoot
One,
'em.
one clean motion.
You're gonna shoot him 5 times.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, let's get now. There's a couple big things that happen at the end of the episode that we see very brief scenes of. The first of which is we now know that Cindy Strauss, excuse my language, kids, blew Erich Blunt right before she died.
Yes.
So Blunt's looking pretty good for the murder, but we also know how his lawyer is gonna play it.
Yeah.
And the baby is also his. Was his.
Yeah.
Which I think we kind of thought.
Yeah.
Yeah. But although Bill was involved.
Right. But yeah, that's interesting. See, they're stacking the chips against Erich.
Yeah.
Both of they obviously had an opportunity to kind of slip Bill in there in one of Cindy's orifices, but
Whoa.
They didn't. And I think that's where we're gonna get like the content for the next few episodes. Like it's gonna be sort of a standoff between them.
Yeah.
Agreed. We also learned that she texted, that's not even a word. She texted Wilkerson at 9 but was killed at 8:30. We also learned that. So something was sent through an app is what we were kind of informed.
Possibly.
Possibly.
Apps exist, but
Yeah.
we don't know if that's
Yeah.
what happened.
Yeah.
But we did learn that. So that's I feel like they're setting up somebody, but I can't pick who's setting who up, like it's not very clear, but someone is being set up.
That's the point of the show.
Oh, good job.
Yeah.
Well, she was also drunk and on Molly, right?
Yeah.
When she died, which, it's horrible. But at the same time, since it was Erich there, did he force her like he did with all the other women in the episode? So it's one of those things like, oh, she's horrible for doing this. Well, did he force her? Did she, put those pills on her throat and...
And Erich now has a pattern.
Yeah.
Because we've heard from Hannah, if we take it at face value, and it's true, which it may not be, but we've heard from Hannah that he did this in when they were younger.
5 years ago, yeah.
We saw, even though no one else technically knows, we saw him with the other girl in the first scene of the episode.
Mm-hmm.
And now we have an inkling that, hey, same pattern with the Molly and with the champagne and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Who do you think this could be? So you're pointing to somebody whose violence is escalating and escalating and escalating, and you may be looking at like a future serial killer if this guy goes unchecked. Seriously, that's how that stuff starts, and it escalates to the point of death, and then you want your next high or whatever it is. So I don't know. I mean, we'll see in a couple episodes if he is that guy or not, but
It's stacking up. I mean, the Krav Maga thing, like that's an incredibly violent martial art to learn. Like it's all based on knees and like headlocks, and it's definitely used. It's like an Israeli self-defense martial art that they teach to their military.
yeah.
So it's not like he's doing karate at the local Y. This is
And he's not even doing it the way
is.
he's doing it in like a hollowed out garage kind of area. You know what I mean? Like wherever
Like
they
a
were doing it.
warehouse.
Yeah, he's doing some warehouse. It's
Yeah.
like everything about it is badass.
Right.
Yeah. Before we talk about that though, well, I guess just the arrest. But before we do that, what about Jackie Perez and Lieutenant Kodo?
Ooh. That I did not see coming.
I don't think anybody did.
Yeah.
But another reason why I don't think Terry and Hildy might not hook up, because it is the office romance is happening elsewhere.
That is true.
Agreed.
But interesting to see where that goes. I mean, how much of Kodo's motives are going to be run by his relationship with the DA. And if that, I think maybe if that gets out, how will that affect the trial with Erich Blunt now being in custody?
Oh, yeah.
And we've already seen Kodo kind of being the whip that's driving the buggy when all the detectives are meeting early in the scene in kind of a casual way, and he walks out and everybody scatters.
Right.
Because they already don't want to talk to this guy because he's putting maybe unrealistic pressure on him. So absolutely.
Right. And now we know why.
And now we do know why. And then Blunt gets arrested, which was to me a little, maybe a letdown.
The way it happened?
Yeah, they
I
staked
know.
him out, all this stuff happened, and then he just kind of went.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
just walked in.
Yeah.
So you were waiting for what? Yeah.
I don't
that's how it
know,
felt.
not very Erich Blunt, but I think we saw it coming earlier in the episode, and it happened. Kind of circumventing his defense attorney, it still happened,
Mm-hmm.
and now he's in jail and he has to be there over the weekend. Dirty trick to arrest somebody on Friday afternoon, huh?
Yeah.
Man.
Get a life, guys. Interesting, though, that Hildy called him right before it happened. I
Yeah.
wonder what she said. Because he
Oh,
asked her if it
yeah.
was important, and it
Or if she was
seemed
safe,
to have
yeah.
said no.
Yeah, that's a good point. Make your prediction on
Yeah,
that.
seriously. I don't know.
All right, before we get to predictions, though, you guys have some news, so let's do a little news and gossip.
AfterBuzz TV News.
Good news for the show. The ratings went up for last week's episode, which was episode 2. 5.2 million viewers.
Wow.
Which makes this the #1 new series that launched this year on basic cable.
Do you want to hear a little fun fact?
Oh, yeah.
The last ship launched on TNT last night and surpassed those numbers, and it is now the #1 series on basic cable. But those are very good numbers.
True, but
Yeah.
maybe episode 3,
Oh, you're right. Yeah.
right back at ya. We'll see. It's the running race.
Yeah.
That's
TNT
so funny.
killing it though.
TNT
obviously.
totally killing
Yeah.
it, absolutely. But this is what they do. They know drama. This
Yeah,
is what
they do
do.
know drama.
They do.
Let's go back. Hashtag let's go back.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I read an interview that Tom Felton did, Erich Blunt, for People magazine. He was talking about how he really enjoys these dark characters. He says he likes to sympathize with them and kind of dissect them and make them, give them a possibility, give them a chance, because people instantly think of him in a negative way. And he's
Draco.
like, exactly. And he was talking about how some people are really intense, like fans of his. He says, this is a quote: "It's always been fun for me, the dark side of things. I'm not actually thinking of being reckless criminal, or evil mastermind. Some people are. Some people revel in the darker side of it, which is a little odd. I've had a couple of proposals from people who want to adopt me. A few requests to change my name legally to Malfoy. Gifts of homemade potions and spells. I have to admire that level of dedication." Crazy.
Yeah, so he was
know.
given homemade potions and stuff like that.
Yes.
Wow.
From
That-
crazy fans.
That would be
Oh
the
my
scariest
God.
part about being a celebrity, is not weird people. And maybe as a man, I'm not as concerned with weird people in public as if I would be a woman or something. But the thing that creeps me out, if I became a celebrity, is people mailing like food and stuff to you. Don't get within 10 feet of that.
Right?
Not even food.
Right?
People will show up in your house. They will break in just because they're so in love with you. and like you're super fan. That happened to Sandra Bullock last month.
Yeah, and these people
It's
are
crazy.
a fan of him as Malfoy. You
As
know?
Malfoy,
that's
yeah.
crazy.
But for what it's worth, it might be smart to cast a guy like this, because do you think a lot of Malfoy fans automatically come to a show like this just to see him
Oh,
work?
probably.
Absolutely.
Definitely. It's
There you
really
go.
smart, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, hey, I've got a few good ones, so let's do predictions.
Okay.
And now, your AfterBuzz TV predictions.
I'm going to drop the bomb on you guys.
Bring it.
Here's what's going on. I'm just going to be blunt. Erich Blunt.
Ooh.
See what I did there?
Yeah.
Erich Blunt is a serial killer. Erich Blunt has a pattern with these girls, with Molly and Champagne or whatever, and he has a pattern with choking them and doing all this kind of stuff, and he's gone too far and he's killed a few of them. They're going to further dig cases back in other jurisdictions in the past where girls have died like this, and they haven't popped up because it's not in the same jurisdiction, whatever. I think Blunt's a serial killer. However, I will stick to my prediction about the lawyer and say that in Cindy's case, Blunt was going to kill her. This is so detailed, I'm sorry. Blunt was going to kill her. The lawyer caught them because he figured out who Blunt was, threw Blunt out, and the lawyer accidentally killed Cindy.
Ooh.
That level of detail, there's no way that's going to be correct.
Very specific.
That's my prediction.
I'm not sure.
Follow that.
Honestly, yeah, seriously, I'm not sure. You know, after all these DNA tests, I do think there's more to the Cindy murder. Of course, I'm not sure what. I do think there's something with Billy in there.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I'm going to your side.
Just bring the chair.
slide
JB.
on
Bring
over.
the
But
chair.
I think there's more
Slide
story
on
to. I think it goes back to what we're saying. It was a few people involved. That's what I think. I think it was the lawyer, Bill, and obviously Erich.
So everybody.
So everyone's
Everybody's
a killer.
Is it-
And
is
then
it-
I always
We're all
win,
right.
right? Because then if one of the
just for the record, is it a prediction if you predict, everything's going to happen?
Yeah.
yeah,
All the stuff.
Everything
because
that can
then
happen.
I will win. You see
Oh,
that, right?
yeah.
Because if the lawyer, I win. If it's the
Such
I'm kidding,
such
guys.
a thing a girl would say. Always have to
And,
win.
well,
Yes.
and you know what? I'll stick to what I said earlier. That I think in the next few episodes, Terry and Mulligan will kiss.
Oh.
Nothing more. Nothing more. Just maybe hold hands.
Yeah, just they'll be in the same room together.
It keeps going.
Yeah.
Slowly.
They'll
they're
hug.
not taking it.
They'll hug
Yeah,
once.
they're taking it slow.
All right, JB, predictions.
I am gonna step off the gas with Bill a little bit. Last episode, I thought he was sort of more of a mastermind, and I think he's definitely got some dirt on him. But I don't think he's everything. I think maybe not everybody that's involved.
I only said 3. Come on.
But I think it's multiple angles that are being played, and I think maybe there's some blackmail involved. I think they were trying to get Erich to do something. I definitely think Erich's bad too. Before I was kind of giving him the benefit of the doubt, but he's backpedaling so much. I feel like he's guilty of something, possibly murder.
Now you're
So
talking.
who was
Yeah.
it?
I think it's between Bill and Erich for me,
Okay.
and possibly a combo.
See, he has
of them.
2. Why can't I have 3?
Well, you have everybody. Two.
Every option you
Yeah.
already taken. You're like,
Only
yeah,
3
that's
guys. Only 3.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I am. That will conclude my.
That will conclude it. Okay. I feel like it's just too easy. I want to say yes. He has a pattern. He's a serial killer. Okay, so the show's over. We
No,
figured it
no,
out.
not at all. No,
But you know
not
what
at
I mean?
all.
Like, it's too easy.
Right.
That seems too easy to me. That they gave us all that all your prediction comes from today's episode, right?
Well, more or less. Not the lawyer. The lawyer's been there from
No,
the
but your
start.
prediction about Erich Blunt.
The serial killer, sure,
comes
with,
today,
with the
right?
pattern, yes.
Exactly. It seems too easy to me. Even though you're right, that's what I want to believe. But I am going to agree with JB again.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
say that it's both. It's both. So even with you too, because I think that the whole Cindy thing is the gray area. And that's where it's not Erich Blunt. That's what I think.
Just for the record, this segment is called Predictions.
Yes.
And we each made a prediction of who the killer is. And I'd just like to point out that I made an insanely specific prediction about one person. You picked everyone, and you two each picked 2 people.
Well,
I don't think you guys
yeah.
understand predictions.
I am predicting that you are not fully right.
That's a given. All right, before you guys just pile on, social links, Twitter, and stuff like that, Monse, where can they find you?
You can find me on Twitter or on Instagram at Monse Balanos.
You guys can find me at JB_Zimmerman on Twitter and Instagram. I also host Marin on Thursdays at AfterBuzz TV, and just started this Sunday, Almost Royal.
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Rena Brazil, and we are also hosting The Last Ship together, so make sure to check that out.
That's just us, JB, not you. I'm sorry.
You're not
Yeah, sorry,
invited.
JB.
It's okay. They're totally overpowering.
So there's
me.
no right predictions on that show.
Whoa! Shots fired. I'm at Bobby DeMuro on Twitter, at Mr. Bobby DeMuro on Instagram. As we leave, remember Maria's new book, The Every Girl's Guide to Diet and Fitness, in stores right now. iTunes, YouTube, subscribe, comment, rate, do all that good stuff, and tweet us, guys. We love hearing from you. Thank you. Good night.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.
Thank you for watching AfterBuzz TV on YouTube. For more of your favorite after shows and interviews, subscribe to our channel here, and be sure to share your opinion on the episode in the comment section below here. We'd love to see what you guys are buzzing about. Thanks again. Buzz you later.